What if every American had $500,000? Why? That dream reveals a much darker reality. Imagine waking up tomorrow to find your net worth magically inflated to nearly $500,000. No loans, no rent worries, no paycheck to paycheck grind, just pure, cold, life-changing wealth dropped into your lap. Sounds like utopia, right? But here's the catch. The only way that happens is if we blow up the system as we know it. And when you look at the numbers, you realize this dream exposes a much deeper nightmare about how wealth actually works in America. The thought experiment that breaks the illusion. According to the latest figures from the Federal Reserve, America holds a collective $160.35 trillion in household wealth. That includes every home, stock portfolio, savings account, yacht, trust fund, and tech startup equity from coast to coast minus debts. Now imagine splitting that equally across the entire U.S. population, currently estimated at around 340 million people. The result? Every American would be worth approximately $471,465. Sounds great in theory, doesn't it? A married couple would have nearly $1 million, and a four-person family would be sitting on $1.89 million, more than enough to buy a home, pay for college, and retire with dignity. But that's not how wealth works. And that's precisely the problem. The reality is a system built on extreme concentration. The bottom 50% of Americans, that's 170 million people, own just 2.5% of that $160 trillion fortune. Do the math, and you'll see they collectively hold about $4.01 trillion, or around $23,588 per person. Meanwhile, the top 1, a tiny club of just 340,000 individuals, controls $22.14 trillion, averaging $65 million per person. That's 2,760 times more than the average person in the bottom half. Let that sink in. The wealthiest 1% not only lives in another reality, they own it. Together, the top 10% of Americans hoard 2/3 of the nation's wealth. This isn't just inequality. It's aristocracy dressed up in Silicon Valley hoodies and hedge fund portfolios. The problem isn't just the 1%, it's the game they designate. Critics often frame the conversation around envy. Don't hate the rich, they say. Be inspired. But what's happening here isn't about personal success. It's about systemic capture. The wealthiest Americans benefit not just from having more, but from a system that multiplies what they already have. Stocks, real estate, private equity. These are not just assets. They're engines that churn out more wealth, usually taxed at lower rates than your labor. If you work for money, you're taxed. If your money works for you, you win. Over and over. And even when wealth trickles down, it doesn't trickle far. The middle 40%, those in the 50th to 90th percentiles, hold about 30% of the wealth, averaging around $121,000 per person. That's a far cry from the fantasy of broad-based prosperity, the myth of equal distribution, and why it terrifies the status quo. So what if we actually did redistribute the wealth? What if every child born in America inherited an equal starting point? This isn't just a hypothetical, it's a provocation. It lays bare the extent to which the American dream is rigged before the game even begins. A world where everyone starts with $471,000 would be unrecognizable, and that terrifies those who profit from the current imbalance. They'll call it socialism. They'll say it would kill innovation. But let's be honest, innovation doesn't require billionaires. It requires opportunity. And opportunity, right now, is chained to zip codes, inheritance, and insider access. So what's the real takeaway? This exercise isn't about punishing the rich. It's about understanding how broken the system is when 50% of Americans can barely afford a $500 emergency, while the top 0.1% can buy islands without blinking. Until we address that foundational rot, in tax policy, in education funding, in housing access, in campaign finance, we're just rearranging deck chairs on a yacht we'll never set foot on. So next time someone says, "Why can't everyone just work harder and get rich?" remind them, if wealth were fair, you'd already be rich. This isn't about fantasy, it's about reckoning. And maybe, just maybe, demanding a system where your worth isn't defined by how much you inherited, but how much dignity you deserve.